Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to be present at the authors' meeting entitled Trust Nothing that is going to be said this evening. This tricky and provocative title comes from Etgar Keret, the guest of the meeting, hosted by Jakub Szczęsny. Etgar Keret, a poet, writer, director, screenwriter, one of the most important persons in Israeli culture, cinema. Translated into 49 languages, his works have been published throughout the world, and today he is with us. The partner of this meeting is Wydawnictwo Literackie Publishing House. Jakub Szczęsny, Etgar Keret.
I will take a seat.
Hey, hi Kuba.
Due to your back problems.
Yes. I'm like the Pisa Tower, you know, I'm kind of not very straight at the moment.
Okay.
And the ironic thing is that I've been nagging Literackie, my publishers, for the past couple of years. Get me to Poland, you know, with all the COVID and stuff. The moment that the events became possible, I just said, get me here. And they got me this wonderful event and date with you, and I couldn't come. This is a tragedy.
But still you can be present as Hamlet's father as a ghost.
That's
thanks to the digital age. Okay, so I'm very thankful to the organizers to be here with such noble public and to have the discussion with you around what's actually happening in your head right now.
Mostly pain right now.
Oh, it's interesting. I would like to maybe start with an introduction to one of the short stories that you have published in your internet alphabet soup. I don't know if the public here has a knowledge of the existence of Etgar Keret's alphabet soup. It's on edgarkeret.substract.com. May I start with it? It's the alternative fun facts, okay? Especially the introduction is interesting. So Etgar has written some time ago a short text called Alternative Fun Facts. The future is not what it used to be. In the future, we'll have figured out how to make money of the past. In this new feature, I will try, in the spirit of the times, to fill your mind with false scientific and historical facts, just to spice up our somewhat bland world. You may learn about secret gravity waterfalls in the Amazon, about global cooling, about a virus with motion sickness that vomits on airplanes, or any other alternative fact that will help take your mind off the tediously hyper-realistic reality we live in. Do we really live in a hyper-realistic reality? Is it really a reality?
No. It stopped being a reality, I think, in the 80s. You know, it became something else, they just didn't inform us. but what I really feel is that at least in the past, facts were very important and the rules that you had to keep when you were debating were very, very simple and very, very public. But now I feel that we're in an age where argument is irrelevant because people don't tend to change their opinions anyway. And the whole idea is that you have some kind of an emotion or feeling that you want to go with, and then people kind of, the internet is big enough to find people who will provide you with facts that will help you on your way. But it's not really, we're not in a seeking mode. I don't feel that humanity is curious and trying to find out what's happening. It's more about kind of humanity trying to find out who pisses us off. It could be Johnny Depp or Amber Heard or Putin or it could be Trump, it could be Biden. It doesn't matter. But it's just that you need somebody to hate, and it was really interesting because during the war with Ukraine. I took part in a few activities that were supposed to support the Ukrainian people. And I very quickly understood that if you had like a fundraiser, let's say a Kickstarter, wanting to get money to buy clothes for Ukrainians, you'll get a lot of money. But if you had a Kickstarter saying, I want to save money to kill Putin, then it would be much easier to raise money. And I feel that, let's say, compared to the 60s and the hippie times and stuff, we are now living in an age where we're not so much trying to make the world better, but we want to get even with the people who made this world worse. It's kind of, we gave up on a better scenario. We just want to punish the guilty parties.
Or maybe we are looking for like-thinking people avoiding those who are not like-thinking, whatever the profile of it. Flat Earth, whatever.
Yeah, but I really feel that the moment most of our arguments take place in social media, which is usually built in a way that doesn't tolerate any ambiguity or any uncertainty, then in the end, every argument will become a tribal fight. It's like if you support Barcelona or if you support Real Madrid, then you just want them to win. You don't care if there was a penalty or not a penalty. And it's really, I remember in Israel where we would see international games, whenever a referee would talk about a penalty against us, then my neighbor would say, an anti-Semite, of course he's an anti-Semite, but he's not an anti-Semite, he's a football ref, he saw somebody falling and he thought it was a penalty. And I really feel that the more I look at the world around me, I'm less interested in the text that people are saying, and more in the subtext. Because right now I have so many liberals who think like me, but act like crazy. I don't know if you heard about the sunflowers of Van Gogh today.
Yes.
So the idea of, let's say, if I look at the shooting of the caricaturist in Denmark, or the stabbing of Salman Rushdie, or people who spill tomato soup on a classic painting as a protest against global warming and people being hungry, then they're all basically saying the same. They're all saying that art is not important. Art is just a tool through which we can either get something, or if it's not what we get, then we don't want it. And in this way, they are liberals, but they're actually Stalinists at the same time. And I feel that, when you live in an age of cancel culture, which fights for causes that are good and great, but doesn't bother to fight fair or to always fight systematically or to try to create some rules, then I'm sometimes feel more scared from people who share my ideas than from people who I always knew that they were fascist and I knew to stay away from.
Oh, it's even more difficult, I think, because nowadays many fascists would actually not only not like to be called fascists, but also they would really hate to feel that they are fascists, even though they think like fascists and do fascist things.
Well, it is in a way a fascist age, you know. It's this idea that people can live in their feet and create some kind of a reality that will not be contradicted and will be consistent and will be liked by other people. And when you live in this bubble, really, even the proficiency of listening or arguing in a proper way or changing your mind, you lose the ability to do that. You know, it's a little bit like the ability to walk. And it was very funny because let's say when I looked at the war in Ukraine, I was very supportive of the Ukrainian people, and all the time I would look for people who are supportive, and those people would say, Putin is Hitler, he's fascist. And I would say, no, he's not Hitler, he's a different kind of a menacing figure who can destroy Earth, but he's not Hitler, there are differences. And then people would say, you're pro-Putin, you love Russians, you know, it's really...
So there's no space really for any discussion, basically.
There's very little space for discussion. And I would say that usually the safest space of all used to be art. Because art, you know, it doesn't matter if you're a stand-up comedian getting on stage or somebody who's making a TV series for Netflix or whatever. The idea was that there you're making up something and you're liberating thoughts and ideas that maybe are not good, that they be practiced in society. You know, most of the stand-up comedian procedure is basically saying the things that we would never say. That's the idea about it. You know, they say, you know, when somebody passes me in a junction, I want to go and shoot him. It's great. It's great that a stand-up comedian says it. It's better. It's good to ventilate it, you know, instead of going and shooting people. But now we are living in a world that because it's always everything is my way or the highway, then art is supposed to be stripped in a way from its obscurity, from the fact that the artists are many times are not in control, you know, or are not promoting ideas that are beautiful and that should be shared. And in this sense, then you really feel that art became some kind of an instrument, a hammer or a chainsaw, and people look and say, no, this is the bad art, because with this bad art, I won't be able to hammer my way to where I want to go. And I really feel that, you know, there are many topics to be discussed because the world is really not in a good state. The word looks a bit like my lower back right now, but I'm saying, having said that, I think that we should be reflexive and not only think about the ideas we are trying to promote, but think about the ways that we are doing it. You know, it's really most lynch mob parties think that they hang people for the right reason. They think that they hang a guilty party, but the idea can only work if the system is consistent. If I can give you an idea, an example, one of the left-wing parties, which I appreciate in Israel, Avoda, I would say I'm much more to the left than them, but still I really appreciate them. And they used to be a ruling party. They are now campaigning, and the number one put out posters saying for a woman to feel safe, there should be a rule that sex offenders will not be released a third before their time. You know, like that they will stay in jail for the full party. Now this was a main campaign. And what was strange is that traditionally the right wing, the extreme right wing, they do the campaign for us to be safe, terrorists should have death sentence. And it was very strange to see how left and right were talking about two different things. But basically the idea was that if we want to represent the people, we should be stronger and more vindictive with the people who affect us. It's not about let's create rules and systems which would make women feel more safe, but let's make sure those bastards won't get out of jail. And you know, and I heard about our commitment to be optimistic. But I really, like I'm 55 years old, I've never lived in a period that seems to be internally much more pessimistic. It's when people who want to fight for the future of the earth go and spill tomato juice on a Van Gogh painting, it really means that everybody thinks that they've already lost.
Maybe it is, but actually to go out from this pessimism, I've been thinking about the motif you were talking about, this safe place that was in the past the production of culture, especially art, where you could, in more or less a safe zone, create different concepts that would enlighten people or make them ask themselves questions. Where does the situation we are in today, probably mostly due to internet, but this is my thinking, where does it put you as a writer? Because now we live in a time of fiction, more or less, and this is when maybe writers have to change the status. They become less important, or actually anyone can become a fiction creator.
Well, I have no doubt that writers in this age had become less important. You know, I mean, we live in a very accelerated reality. So I could really see it like in a nature movie where you see the flowers opening and closing. But I think that the reasons that writers had become not important is just because of that, because they invite you to a space that is not pragmatic in nature, that most likely will confuse you and may make you change your mind. And you know, I once met a woman that told me that she grew up in a very Catholic family. And when she was a child, her parents wouldn't let her read any books that wasn't the Bible. And when she asked her mother why, then her mother said to her, look, a book, you always know who you are when you enter a book, but you cannot be sure who you will be when you live. You don't take that risk. So I really think that, you know, that when you live in an age where it's all about sticking with your ideas and being very vehement about them, then this idea, it's a little bit like writers are those Pilates teachers who live in an age where people think that the flexibility is for pussies. You know, what we're selling, there's not that many people who are interested in it right now. And by the way, it's perfectly okay. I mean, I don't have a problem as a writer. You know, I write my newsletter, and if thousands of people read it, it's wonderful. And if hundreds, it's great. And if it will be dozens, it's still enough. You know, nobody promises you an ecosystem in the world. But my worries is for the world. You know, my worries. If I could create a world with no writers, but in which people would be actually attentive and reflexive and would not be afraid to ask themselves a difficult question, then, you know, I would retire today.
I've asked a question about the role and status of a writer today in reference to internet, because I don't know if you've heard about the concept of Karlovec. The Czech people who suddenly claimed that actually Kaliningrad, the external territory of Russia by Baltic Sea, should be overtaken by Czech Republic because they don't have a sea. They always wanted to have the access to it. So this way they can finally sort of fulfill the historical justice and get their own piece of sea line. And the action, because it's an internet action, was started by an anonymous guy. Not a writer, not a big persona whatsoever, but because the concept was so funny and so brilliant, Czechs actually have a long tradition of it. I will tell you later on about Jara Zimmerman, which is an unexisting writer and the greatest of Czechs. It's a long tradition since 60s. But they really have this profile of sense of humor that leads to a very large response to such an absurd idea that actually refers very much to what is today's situation with so-called independent republics in Donetsk, etc. So this fiction has a big force because many people actually can start believing that the Czech Republic wants to have Kaliningrad.
Well, you know, I think that when you talk about irony, for irony to work, or for humor to work, people should have enough things in common. You know, so you recognize a joke because somebody says something that shouldn't be said. But if we don't share a set of values, it's very difficult to be fun. You know that Jonathan Swift, if I'm making any mistakes, I'll blame the painkillers, okay? But he wrote this essay when there was a famine in Ireland, and the British didn't want to support the Irish people. Then he wrote an essay saying, I don't understand what's the problem with the Irish. They're Catholics, they have so many children. Here let me publish a recipe how to cook a baby. And you know, and they can all eat their babies, they have so many babies. Why does he make such a big fuss out of it? And of course this was a very cynical piece. But you know, after it, people started sending the newspaper recipes how to cook Irish babies. Because they say, no, you know, the way he suggests it will be too salty. If you want to make the baby, put it with a lot of carrots, you know. So this is really a weird time when you cannot make a joke together. I have this theory, is that when people are closest, they can share poetry. When they drive apart a little, they can still share fiction because it's based on the plot and not on associations. And when they drive completely apart, you know, they can watch YouTube. I have those great Little Cats movies I can share them with you.
Maybe you should have little cats every some time in your alphabet soup as a subject to start with. You know? But you know, actually, I think it's beautiful that in such times of uncertainty, because it is a very much a moment in which we can feel that the soup is boiling and most probably there's going to be a very new dish happening, and we fear this dish. So in this time, maybe the irony or absurd or something that puts us together, even if it's laughing through tears, is something we desperately need.
I agree with you. At least I need it. You know, I started a newsletter out of some compulsive need to have a little community, you know, to be in such an ecosystem, because I used to publish stories sometimes on Facebook and other social medias, and being in the political left wing, then then people would get into my page sometimes just because I wrote something political or whatever, and then those people would stay and say your story sucks, and you don't know how to write, and you're short, and your wife doesn't really love you. And I say, okay, I can't do a lot with this criticism to become a better writer, I need to create some kind of space that I guess before COVID, I had it a lot in public readings, and in the time of COVID, it kind of disappeared, where I can just have some kind of dialogue that has nothing to do with my role in the world. It's not as if people are, it's like, I think the best example I have for that is the vaccinations with COVID. So when I got free vaccinations in Israel, it's like we are the kings of vaccinations. We drink vaccinations. We wash our mouths with vaccines. But I'm saying that I know some people that didn't want to get it. I must say, I'm not an expert. I have a feeling that also the experts are not that much of an expert. But the idea is that people are willing to beat each other up in the street just because one of them would take a vaccination and the other wouldn't, that people would want to go to measures like revoking your citizenship, even so, technically, if you vaccinate or you not vaccinate, you affect your fate, not others, because even if you're vaccinated, you can give people the virus. Then this is this kind of things that I want to go to a place where people won't ask me, did you get the vaccination or you didn't? Or what soccer football team you support? I just want to go to a place where people will say, you talk too much and you sweat a lot when you talk. I want to have a different kind of dialogue.
But so we have become binary tribes, in fact, yes? It's like 0-1, everything, black and white, everything's binary.
Yes, and again, this I truly blame Facebook and social media because
do you want us to call Mr. Zuckerberg and tell him we're sick and tired of his products?
Oh,
yeah, we can do it right now.
I'm sure that there are many people who've been calling before me. I don't think he would care that much. But I'm saying that the moment that you have a button that is like and unlike, that's binary. It's two options. If I write a post where I say, I love Poland so much for all the beauty in it, but I hate it so much for the bad things. I love the forest, but I hate the river. What do? You like or you unlike? Because you
it's not true. You have a third option. It's called it's complicated. You've seen in relations single, it's complicated. So maybe you can use this one.
Yeah, but it's just that it's not sexy, it's complicated.
Oh, yeah, that depends. It might actually attract people who want complications.
Yeah, but why call it complication? I really love the word obscurity. I really like this kind of idea of a modesty. We are not in the beginning of the 20th century. Even science changed. We probably won't solve the riddle of the universe. And most chances we will destroy ourselves, very soon. But let's hope that not. But I'm saying in this big story, I think that the value of believing in obscurity, of really believing in this idea that there are some things that we don't know, and that there are some things that cannot be totally decided, and that there are some things that we think about them this way and we think in another way. This is not relativism. There are things, that you can say this is right and this is wrong. But I'm saying at the same time, we are living in a world where you have extreme opinions about everything. Vegan people beat you up in the street. Steak eaters beat you at the vegan restaurant. It's this kind of zero tolerance, which I actually feel come from a huge pessimism and stress. It's like as if we are on the Titanic and we're sinking and we're pushing everybody who's on our way. You know, we have some kind of a plan and everybody has to stick with our plan, because if they won't go with our plan, the world will be destroyed. You know, if the ones that we don't want to be voted will be voted, we can all kill ourselves. You know, we became these huge drama queens. You know, I'm from Polish descent, you know, so to be dramatic and to feel sorry for myself comes with my genes. But I'm saying now this is universal. You see on YouTube people from Korea being Polish. You know, come on.
They got infected. It's a very dangerous situation. But the truth is, I observed the same thing. We have reached a moment in which the reality became so complicated and sophisticated because it's really hard to verify data. And plus, many people don't really want to verify any data. So there is no need for fact-checking because we want to believe in things and have our opinion based on these beliefs.
This is true, and I think that again, it's what you have first. If you first have curiosity and then you seek data, or if you first have a dogma and then you want to take the data that will help you. You know, I remember that there was a political debate in Israel, and I wrote a big piece in which I quoted my father, and I said that my father died a month before that from cancer, and that my father had always told me this and this and this and this. And when I did that, I started getting reaction, people saying, "We're so happy that your father died from cancer. We really hope that he suffered a lot." And for me, we're talking about freedom of speech. I realized that, let's say today, when I argue, if I say anything personal about myself, the most people are not that interested in the argument, but they can use it against me. You know, so the idea is that when you speak, you already have in mind, you know, what's going to be in the cross-examination. And this is not a good thing for freedom. You know, the idea is that you self-censor yourself before you even move. Just saying, oh, you know, I better not say that, and I better not share this, and this may not look right. Then in the end, the ability to be authentic and passionate about things is kind of diminishes a little. I can tell you, I had to publish, I wanted to publish a story in the US somewhere. And in the story, there is a guy, and the guy goes to see a movie, and he can't see the movie because the person sitting in front of him has an afro. You know, this curly. So they said, you know, it's very problematic because you can't use afro because it's an African hairstyle and you're not African. So they suggested that I write Jufro because apparently Jews that grows their hair. So I'm saying, what is this for liberalism? I mean, does it mean that, you know, that I can't even use a term of a hair without possessing a heritage? You know, I don't know if you know that, but Sarah Silverman, the American comedian,
Yep.
she started campaigning, they call it Jew face. That she says that when there are roles of Jewish women and men, they should be played by Jews. Because, you know, those Jews, they have this psychological, and this has started, of course, from other places, like transgenders should be played by transgenders and not by somebody who pretends to be transgender. And you know, and there is something about it that, talking about diminishing space, you know, a movie is about something. It could be pro-Jews or against Jews, but the people who act in it, they just pretend to be something. You know, it's like I'm saying, imagine that tomorrow I will say that, you know, that sociopath murderers in movies like, you know, Silence of the Lamb, a sociopath should be played by a sociopath.
But of
because,
course.
you know, no, because when normal people play them, they really have no knowledge of the phenomena and no empathy. And all sociopaths look like sociopaths, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But if sociopath would start acting as sociopath, and sociopath, unlike Jews, they are in a much worse condition than the Jews. You know, really, the sociopaths. You know, they usually, if they only get on Netflix if they kill 20 people, you know, and go to jail. Try to be a sociopath and make a career. You know, it's very difficult.
You are killing me now. But it's a brilliant idea. I love Sarah Silverman's zeal here.
I actually love her too. No, and that's the thing, that the people that you love and appreciate say stuff that you say, oh, no, but they are my people. Why are they saying it? You know, they are my guys. I'm used to having crazy right-wing people saying stuff that I can't even understand.
As for someone with back problems, I see you are pretty vital and like vibrant. Okay, so but
It's the pain.
probably. So look, because we were slowly getting to the very end of our meeting.
Wow.
And you have to know that the Freedom Games here, it's a very serious thing. And Mark Lilla, who was just before us here, he gave a very long, rather pessimistic speech. But maybe you, as a very vibrant, full of energy, a person, maybe you would have to say something that is optimistic.
Yeah, well, again, you know, what I want to say is that optimism is something that is embedded in you. It's not being based on facts because you know, if it's not irrational, like any belief. But I can tell you this short anecdote that during the Second Intifada, when there were a lot of bombings, I talked to my late mother, and I said to her that I'm not sure that I want to bring children to the world. And she said to me, why? And I said to her, look what's going around us. You know, killings, senseless killings. Nobody listens to each other, and things are only get worse. And my mother said to me, if after the Holocaust, if after losing my entire family, I could find the optimism to have you, maybe you can try and find it in yourself to have the optimism to have a child. And of course, I do have a child, but I'm saying something beyond that. I think that the fact that things are not good, it just means that each of us should ask themselves, what can we do to change it? And when I'm saying ask ourselves, is not do what people tell us to change it. You know, it's like when I came to Italy to support the Ukrainian people, and people told me proudly that they cancelled a conference of 100 years to Dostoevsky to take revenge on Putin, then those people are not are joining a cause that they shouldn't join. You know, the moment that we go back to this idea of saying, what can we do in our sphere to create less violence, more empathy? You know, we can just tell a joke, or we could disagree with somebody and say, you know what, I don't know. Instead of, I'm going to kill you and your wife and rape your dog. You know, if we'll only do this, just change our attitude a little, I think that, you know, it can be like a house of cards. And in the end, we'll all be happy, Kuba. And you and me, we will live together in the Keret house in Warsaw. It will be a little bit tiny, but it will be
You
cozy.
can always squeeze with your family in Keret House. It's, you know, it's a spacious place to be. Okay, look, we have perfectly come to the very end of our meeting. I'm so grateful you made all the effort against the godly will of bending you into a banana. So
I can make a show, my banana show.
no, but you are already cured. It's a miracle.
Oh, no,
it's a miracle.
no,
No,
No, I'm not. And I need a diet, man. I need a diet.
I didn't ask for that much, really. Thank you.
Oh,
This was the most optimistic thing you not even said, but showed to us today. So
my belly button.
thank you very much. I don't know if we can have any questions from the hall,
Yes,
but
yes, please.
anyone.
Show me the audience. I thought it was just you.
Okay, go to his alphabet soup on internet. You will have a contact with this very guy sitting there, and he's alive. You can see he's a real person. Thank you very for now. You can turn into one of these meta beans. Okay, thank you very much. You are very handsome and talented. Thank you.
You too. Bye bye. Bye. I can hear you.